Hello everyone. Welcome to this account setup webinar. My name is Renee and I'm a technical support associate here at UpKeep. Today we're going to deep dive into the ins and outs of this product and touch on how this is going to be useful for your day-to-day tasks. I'll run down the basic features so that you'll gain a good foundation of knowing the most important aspects of our software. With that being said, let's take a look at our agenda for today. First, if you're completely new to UpKeep, we'll go through a quick overview of who we are and why our tool is useful. Now, I promise that we're not just another application you'll have to learn. It's really intuitive and helpful. So, for our agenda today, we'll mainly focus on the web app features, and we'll also cover the user type so that you're familiar with the different roles of each team. Then I'll guide you along on how to set up your locations and assets, as well as go over different workflows such as request, work orders, and preventative maintenance. Lastly, I'll touch on the support resources you have at your disposal so that you and your team are well equipped. Let's talk about our mission. So, our main goal for our customers is to provide you with an easy-to-use tool to better streamline your workflow and provide you with the data that you need to take your maintenance team to the next level. Next, let's talk about the UpKeep advantage. Now, there are other maintenance management softwares, but what differentiates us are through these advantages below. Organization. First, UpKeep will keep you organized. That means that all of your vital information, locations, assets, work orders, communication will all live under the same place. Workflow. UpKeep helps you standardize your workflow process. This means that requests are all going to filter into the same place for approval. Your preventative maintenance activity will live under this one section so that you can forecast what you need when you need it, and your team will have a clear process on how to create and manage your work orders. Analytics. As your team utilizes the app more, UpKeep will continuously track all of your data for reporting purposes. This provides accurate reports so that your managers have a bird's eye view of what's going on within your organization, which allows you to make better predictive decisions as a whole. Preventative maintenance. This gives you the ability to set activities in place on a reoccurring schedule and reduces your asset downtime and creates a long-term efficiency. Mobility. With UpKeep's mobile app, all of your information is at your fingertips and you can complete work wherever you go. This is especially important for technicians who are out on the field and not working out of a computer. User types. Now, to get an understanding of the different user types and to know exactly what each one can do, we'll go over the different types of users within the UpKeep platform. Administrators. They are basically the ones that control the entire account. Admins have full access of UpKeep so that they can monitor the app and they can provide ongoing training. So I like to think of them as the internal UpKeep experts. They can add, change, or remove any data in the system, and you can also have multiple admins per account as well. Technicians. Technicians are the user accounts that frequently close work orders, complete jobs, and are most commonly in the field technicians. They can see all objects associated with their team or organization, such as work orders or assets. Technicians can also edit work orders, locations, assets, or anything that they have created themselves, but they cannot edit or make any changes to anything that they did not create. Limited technicians. Now, limited technicians have almost the same privileges as technicians. However, they will only be able to view objects such as work orders, locations, or assets if those set objects are assigned to them or to their team. They will also be able to see these objects if they were the ones that created them, and they can only assign work orders to themselves or to their team. View only. These users are typically supervisor account types that log into UpKeep less frequently. They will be able to view everything that an administrator can except work order requests and purchase orders. They will not be able to make any changes in UpKeep, and view-only users can also submit work or purchase order requests when something breaks down. create a report, or just see what the current status is of a particular job. Requesters. Requester users simply have a single function. They won't see assets, parts, etc., and instead they'll be able to just log into UpKeep and submit work order requests, then track the status of that request. Now finally, we have vendors and customers. Vendors and customers are not actual UpKeep users that can sign in. This is for internal assignment and quick reference. As an example, you can create a vendor if you have a vendor that you commonly contract or work out to, and you can keep track of who is doing what and the current status of that work order. As an admin, the People and Team section is where you'll add and manage your team members, assign user types for each one, and you can even assign labor rates. So let's go ahead and dive into the web application to see how this looks like. Now let's head to the People and Teams tab. As you can see, here is a list of all the users that we have on UpKeep. And if you want to add a new user, you're going to click on this Add Person button here. But if you came from a different software and you have hundreds of users that you want to add, you are actually able to import them via CSV file. And we do have a separate video on data importing, so if you are interested in that, we do have that available. Now let's begin and add a user. As you can see, here are the different types of users that we have, and then the ones with the yellow price tag mean that they are paid licenses. So if you want to add a new paid license and update your account, feel free to contact us in the customer support team. View only and requester licenses are free, and you can add as many as you'd like. Alright, let's go ahead and click on the user type that we're going to be inviting now, and then we're going to add their email address here below. Then we're going to send the invitation. Now, this user is going to get an email inviting them to join the team, but they do have 48 hours to set themselves up, or you will have to resend the invitation. Now, after you've added your users, you can actually assign a labor rate. That way you can track the time and cost per work order. Next, let's go to the Teams tab here. You can assign the added to users to teams. First, we're going to click on the Add Team button here on the top right hand corner, and then we're going to select the title. I'm going to go ahead and select Morning Shift Team, and for the description, you can add the times that they're available. And then I want to add my technicians Todd and Peter. Click Submit, and you created your morning team. Now that's how you add your users and your teams onto UpKeep. Now let's move along to locations. Adding locations is a foundational function within UpKeep. Locations tell technicians where they should go to complete their work, and you can also assign parts and assets to locations so that you know exactly where they're at all times. Now this is broken into two tiers, your primary and your sub-locations. Primary are the main locations like a plant, building, or a school. And the sub-locations would be a component of the main location. For example, Building 1 is my primary location, and Building 1 Floor 1 is my sub-location. Here's a graphic detailing the suggested hierarchy of locations within your own account. Okay, now let's get started building our locations. Let's click on our Locations tab, and again, here's a list of the locations that I have set up along with their sub-locations. Here are the main locations that I have, and the numbers next to them are the number of sub-locations that I have set up currently. Again, you're also able to bulk import these locations using a CSV file, but let's just get started and add a new one now. We're going to click on the Add Location button, and for now we're going to create a primary location. Let's label it Plant 4 NY Brooklyn. After that, we're going to add the address. Since this is a primary location, we can leave the parent location blank. You can also assign a worker to the location. Now remember how I mentioned that limited text can only see the information that you assign to them? Well, this is how you assign a location. You can also add a team, and below here you can add custom data. Let's say your team has its own way of tracking locations. You can add a location code, for example 4415. And you can even include the map coordinates. If you see the map coordinates pinpoint is a little off, you can easily drag it to the accurate or correct location. Next, let's click submit, and perfect. We just added our primary location. Okay, now let's create a sublocation to that plant 4. So the same steps, we're going to click the add location button. We're going to title it Plant 4 NY Production. And for best practice, we do recommend having a sort of naming convention. And the most important step to this sublocation is to add a parent location to it. Now after we're done, we're going to click submit, and then we're going to double check to see if that sublocation was added. It was, so perfect. We're all set there. All right, and that's how you add your locations and your sublocations. Okay, let's move on to our assets. Now, your assets are essentially the equipment that you're managing and would like to assign your work orders to. And just like locations, this is broken down into 2 tiers, your parent and your child assets. Your parent asset could be a piece of machinery, vehicle, or property. And your child asset could be a component of your parent asset. Now, for example, if your parent asset is a fish tank, your child asset could be the water pump for that fish tank. Now let's go to our Asset tab, and let's begin creating some assets. Now this is a list of the assets that I currently have set up, and as you can see, I have them set up in a naming convention. Now it's currently set up as the main location, sublocation, and the asset name. And this is important if you have multiple of the same asset across different location, and you want to be sure that you're clicking into the right one each time. So having a naming convention will help you keep organized. Now let's go ahead and create a parent asset. And again, you can bulk import using a CSV file, but let's go ahead and just click on the Add Asset button here. Now, let's say you're a part of a fleet management company and you want to create a semi-truck as an asset. Let's title it Plant 4 NY Production Semi-Truck. Now, you can add an image. Let's add an image. And then you can also add a description, type, barcode, category, location, and so on. But if these fields don't apply to you, you can leave it blank. But honestly, the more information that you have, the better it is for data reporting purposes. Now let's get that created. And once that's done, you can see how that looks. And we can also create a random barcode, which is good for scanning. After you're done there, let's go ahead and create a child asset. We're going to click again on the Add Asset button, and let's label it Plant 4 NY Production Semi-Truck Trailer. And again, similar to the location, the most important step here is to add a parent asset to it. Now, once we add the parent asset to it, let's click Submit. And let's see how that looks. All right, we can see that that was created. The parent asset will be underlined and the child asset will be indented. So that was added successfully, so we're all set there. And that's currently how you add your parent and child assets. Okay, let's move on to our workflows. Once you set up your assets and location, now this will come into play when you're adding your workflows. The first one that we're going to be looking at is our work order requests. Now, work order requests can be submitted by internal or external persons where the admin of the account will have to either approve or decline it. Either way, the requester will be notified via email if the request is approved or declined. Now, if that work order request gets approved, it will generate a one time work order. So think of it as a reactive work order. An example would be if I am a tenant and I need someone to come in and fix my sink. I can submit a work order request for that. Now, if you look at this workflow below, the admin will then have the option to approve or decline it. And if I decline it, the requester will be notified with the reason why. So, an example would be if there's maybe not enough information to complete that work order, or if it's maybe a duplicate request. And if it gets approved, then the admin will then be able to assign it to a technician, and that technician will process out that work order as normal. But once it's complete, the requester and the admin are notified via email. So there are a few ways that a work order request can be submitted. You can do this in app by logging in, which would be through a view only or a requester user. Or you can also submit this through something called a external request portal, which is available starting on our professional plan. And this allows non-UpKeep users to submit work order requests through either a public URL link or via email. I will show you both ways, but let's get started. All right, let's first try the in-app request. And let's get started and add a title as the broken sink. And the description would be can't turn on water. We can add a priority, location, asset, category, worker. And once that's been submitted, the admins will have the final say, so they can change the priority, worker assigned, etc. But for the requester, once it's been submitted, you can't make any changes. Now let's go ahead and submit it. And once it's submitted, it will go into the request tab for the admin. Now let's see how that looks like. And as you can see, it went through and it's on the request tab. Now I can go ahead and click onto it and make any changes that I'd want. I can add a due date and add all of that information, and we can hit approve. So once it's approved, it will then convert into a work order. Now let's see how that looks like on the work order tab. Now let me find the broken sink, and here it is. As you can see here, it was added as a work order successfully, so we're all set there. Now let's go ahead and go back to the request tab. As an admin, you will also have the ability to change some of the fields that are on the request form. So if you go ahead and click onto edit request form, you can make the location a requirement or remove any of these fields here. So you can even add your own tasks, and maybe, for example, if you need to include the patient or the requester's phone number, you can edit it to include the desired information that you and your team need in order to complete a work order. Now let's head over to our request portal. This will allow external users or users that don't have a login to submit work order requests. You can either have them submit a request via email or using a public URL link. But let's go ahead and submit a work order request via URL link. And a lot of people like to share this URL link out and even add it to their company website. Let's go ahead and submit this, and all the information is pretty much the same. We're going to add the same issue. We're going to title it Broken Sink. And just for time's sake, let's go ahead and just submit it. Now, once that's submitted, you will see it appear in the request tab. But now, since it was already approved, we're going to decline this one since it's a duplicate request. But yeah, that's how you submit work order requests that are submitted via URL link. Now let's head over to our work order tab. Now, work orders are either created by administrators or technicians, and they're usually created if they see something wrong with a piece of machinery on the floor or as they're walking through the factory or the office. And these are reactive work orders or reactive situations, or considered one time work orders, and do not require approval upon creation. So these steps, the issue is identified and the work order is assigned to a tech or an administrator, and then you just process and complete as normal. And then once complete, the administrator can then verify and audit that the work order was done correctly. Now let's go ahead and create our work order. We're gonna click on the add work order button here and we will title it broken gym equipment. Now, as you can see, it kind of resembles the work order request form without the request. But we're gonna go ahead and title it broken gym equipment. We can add images. I'll add an image here. We can add the estimated duration, so it should take about 2 hours to finish. We can assign an asset or a worker to it. And then we could also add tasks. And this is helpful for maybe the tasks that they need in order to complete this work order. So let's go ahead and click on add task. And the first one is bring toolkit. The next one is bring manual. And then the last one is tighten bolts. And as you can also change the task type from subtask status, and this will allow you to select open, on hold, in progress, or you also have the option to add a text field as the type where they add their own text. You can add a number field where they just add numbers, an inspection check, which is pass fail flag, multiple choice, meter readings, or you can also include a preset checklist and add that there as well. Now, once you added all the necessary information to complete the work order, you can get started. Now let's talk about the different statuses. Open. The work order has not been worked on yet, so it's still an open status. In progress. Kind of self-explanatory, but the work is currently being done to that work order. On hold. Work is maybe temporarily stopped because you need a certain tool to complete this and you maybe have to run to the store to go get it. Complete. Complete, you completed the work order. You can also use things like the timer. And once you start the timer, this will automatically switch the work order to in progress. Or you can manually add time as well. Now, I mentioned before under the People and Teams tab, you can add labor rates to your technicians. Now, once the technicians add time, either by the timer or manually add time, this will automatically calculate the labor cost for each work order, which is pretty neat. Another great tool that you can incorporate is team communication. Now, let's click on to the Update tab here. And as you can see, you can @mention anyone here. Let's go ahead and just say, hey, @everyone, great job on this work order. And vice versa, your technicians, admins can also respond as normal. And yeah, that's how you create a reactive work order. Now let's move along to our preventative maintenance. Another version of a work order would be a preventative maintenance. Now, the only difference here is that preventative maintenance are time or function-based work orders. These are generated based on a reoccurring schedule, and an example would be maybe if you need to perform COVID safety procedures daily for a specific location, etc. So this will generate automatically based on the desired time and date, and it's kind of similar to creating a reactive work order. Let's go ahead and head over to our preventative maintenance tab. Now this tab is actually only visible to our administrators and our view-only users so that you have full access and control over your team's reoccurring work. Now here is a list of all my preventative maintenance triggers, and you can click onto each one to see the calendar, you can see the history, and even change some details of the PM trigger. So if you need to reassign it to a new technician or team, you can easily do that here. Now let's go ahead and click on Add Trigger. And the first thing here is Trigger Title. Now, again, the Preventative Maintenance tab is only visible to administrators, so this trigger title is only visible to administrators. Add whatever you think would be necessary so that you can easily identify that this is maybe a daily COVID safety procedure. And I will label it Plant 4 COVID Safety Daily. And the work order title is visible to text on the work order itself. So maybe just daily safety procedures. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. And then we'll go ahead and add the work order details as normal. You can assign it to a team. And then you can also add the pre-created checklist here. Now, I'm going to click on Add Checklist and add the COVID one that I have already created. Now, once you're done with all the work order details, let's head over to the scheduled frequency. Now, you can set these to be scheduled regularly or based on completion. You can set it for maybe every first of the month, every year, weekly, Monday through Friday. Anything that you need to be done at a reoccurring schedule. Now for this one, we're just going to do regularly every 1 day. And next, you see that you can create or schedule a creation cadence here. Now all preventative maintenance triggers generate work orders on default. And this cadence is a full cycle in advance depending on the schedule that you have set. So let's say you have a monthly work order. Automatically, it will generate a month in advance. So here, you can have it maybe scheduled a few days before, a week before, or anything along those lines. But for this example, I'm just going to leave it alone and just go ahead and create the PM that I've just created. Now let's click Submit, and we can see how that's been created. And we can click onto the PM to see the last work order generated, and you can also see the next ones. And here on the Preventative Maintenance tab, you'll see the last work order, who it's assigned to, and the next work order itself. But yeah, that's pretty much how you create your preventative maintenance work orders. Now I know that was a lot of information that we went through. And our software is helpful, but there is bound to be questions along the way, which is completely fine, and we're more than happy to help. So here are some resources that are available at your disposal. Our technical support team. I'm actually a part of this team, and we are here to help troubleshoot or answer any general questions that you may have. We are available via chat 24 hours, Monday through Friday. You can also email us at info@onupkeep.com, or if you'd rather give us a call, we are available Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. There is our phone number. We also have our UpKeep Help Center that our support team worked very hard on, and this has how-to guides, step-by-step instructions, video tutorials, and honestly everything that you need to set yourself up for success. We also have webinars. Now you're watching the account setup webinar, but we also have our data importing webinar, specific team training webinars, and so much more. Now that should give you a good rundown on how to use some of the fundamental features, and once you've started creating locations and assets as well as compiling work orders, you can then gather information to run reports for your team and to gain data-driven insights. Well, now that wraps up this account setup webinar. And again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions because we are always happy to assist. Until next time, talk to you soon.